Hi, I'm Megan Invick with Americans for Prosperity, North Dakota. This year, we unveiled our Road to Opportunity policy agenda for 2027, a clear roadmap for keeping government limited and opportunity wide open in North Dakota. While the legislature won't meet until 2027, we're using 2026 to listen, organize, and build momentum. Learn more about the Road to Opportunity and how you can be a part of it at afpnd.org.
This episode is presented by the Blue Rider.
Check out the Blue Rider in downtown Minot for a laid-back vibe and outdoor patio and 16 beers on tap.
They've got live music, trivia nights, and one of the deepest record collections around.
Plus fair prices, friendly faces, late-night favorites like grilled cheese and pizza.
The Blue Rider, serving Minot since 1994.
Good drinks, good music, good people.
The North Dakota oil and natural gas industry works here, and works here, and here, and even works here by creating 60,000 jobs statewide and generating billions of tax dollars annually to support our infrastructure, flood protection projects, and our schools. North Dakota oil and natural gas, advancing the possibilities.
Learn more at ndpetroleumfoundation.org.
Get 6 months of local news for just $2. You get unlimited access to the news and information you need to stay connected to your community. Visit inforum.com/subscribe to get 6 months of local news for just $2.
You're listening to Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. I'm your host, Rob Port. If I sound distracted, it's because I've been busy covering this story all morning. I'm joined by my co-host, Chad Oban.
He's right of center, I'm left of center, both sides of the political spectrum.
I think it's cathartic. I think it's a necessary and proper debate. I'm glad we're having it.
And honestly, we have to do better.
Okay, I don't know why I'm getting blamed for this, right? Welcome to Plain Talk, where it's just going to be me and Chad today talking about a number of things. There's just so much going on right now. We talked on the previous episode about the Dem NPL convention and then the Republican convention, such as it is, with the incumbents choosing to skip. But also, I've been kind of mixing it up with some people. Senator Cramer had a letter critical of me, and then Rick Becker, and this was wild. And this is kind of the first thing I think you and I wanted to talk about. So, and I could set it up a little bit about
it's pretty typical. You want to start with talking about Rick Becker. I mean, that is one of the,
I am obsessed. So allegedly, I heard on the internet that I am. So I when I was in Bismarck, I got a text from somebody who was they screenshotted me like a Facebook post that Rick Becker had made. And it was like, he was going to talk about some stuff on a show and then also was going to do a deep dive into a fake journalist, parentheses RP, which are my initials, obviously. And this person was like, what show is he talking about? Like what is it? What even is this? And I didn't know. I was busy covering that state convention. So I really didn't get around to looking at anything until Sunday night, at which point I think Gary Emineth, whose show Rick Becker was on, Gary's got a show on Beck TV, had tagged me in something. And so I went and looked at it. And what it was a video where Rick Becker had done an AI analysis of my work, all the articles that I've written about him since 2013. He says that there are 261. Which I'm willing to stipulate too. That could be. I'm not going to go back and count. I don't care. But he says there's 261. And from that, the artificial intelligence concludes that I'm a narcissist, I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and I have something else. I think it was erotomania, which if you're wondering what in the hell that is, it's defined by the National Institutes of Health as something where I believe that I'm in love with Rick Becker, or I believe he's in love with me or something like that. And so so from that, what their argument, Rick Becker's argument, is that I'm a fake journalist. I'm not a real journalist, or I have some vendetta because I've written a lot about Rick Becker.
Welcome to Open Range. I'm Rick Becker, and we were talking about Rob Port. He's the blogger and now in-forum opinion writer, and the crazy number of disparaging articles he's written about me over the years. It's an AI-derived product. It's called a RAGBot, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. Is Port's coverage of Becker normal journalism, or is it unusual? And the RAGBot says, no, this is not normal journalism, not even close. Rob built a cottage industry out of one man's political career, averaged an article every 18 days for over a decade. There you go. Now, I asked it another question. Do you think Rob Port has a psychological clinical diagnosis? RAGBot says, I'm not a clinician, and Rob Port hasn't sat on anyone's couch that we know of, so no formal diagnosis is possible. But the behavioral patterns displayed on 261 articles, to put it clinically, are not normal. The patterns suggest narcissistic personality features, obsessive compulsive features, fixation and erotomania adjacent pattern. That's interesting. I certainly don't intend to be petty about things, but it's been 13 years and I really haven't said too much. And Rob Port has invited me, requested that I come on to dust. I'm running, by the way, for the state legislature again. So he's asked me to come on his program, answer questions and so forth, and I won't do it. I stopped doing it years ago because he's not objective and he doesn't have any intent to provide something of value to his audience. His purpose is to demean and diminish conservatives in general. So that's why I have for years now strongly encouraged any of my conservative colleagues to not give him the time of day.
I mean, I just kind of laughed out loud. And I wrote a column about it because Rick Becker is an elected official. He's seeking office. He wants voters to vote for him. And I believe that voters should be aware that he's making that kind of content because I think it's silly and kind of stupid and doesn't reflect well on him. And that's the kind of thing voters should know about people who are seeking their votes. And I didn't think that if I left it just on the Gary Ameneth show, I don't think anybody would have seen it. So I wanted to elevate it and put it in front of an audience and have people see it. And then Gary objected to my insinuation that nobody watches his show, and he wrote a follow-up letter to the editor, kind of crying the blues that I'm a schoolyard bully, which I really thought was interesting because he hosted on his show. They're talking that I have a mental health disorder, and then I write that maybe his show doesn't get a lot of attention, and he calls me a bully. So anyway, that's where
Rob, I have so many thoughts. Many thoughts. First of all, I get such a kick out of Rick Becker. Rick Becker is the kind of guy who is, look at me, I need attention. Look at me, look at me, look at me. And then people look at him and he says, oh, why are you so obsessed with me? It's like a child. It's like a child at your home looking for attention and then quickly saying, why are you obsessed with me? So I want to make a couple points. And I think you made these in the column. Rick Becker's ran for the U.S. Senate. He's ran for the U.S. House. He's a prominent state legislator. He ran for governor, I think, at one point as well. He's ran he's ran for all the offices. He has a prominent role on a very, very big initiated measure to eliminate property taxes. He's all over social media. He's got a following, whatever. And you put out a ton of content. It's not like you're writing one column a week. You're writing 5, 6, 7 columns a week online. It would make sense that you've written quite a bit about this guy. I'm guessing when Heidi Heitkamp was a U.S. Senator, you wrote a lot about her. You've written a lot about Kevin Cramer. And I'm worried that maybe Rick Becker's obsessed with you, Rob.
Well, I don't want to say that. I have a feeling that Rick Becker is smarting a little bit because I'm right about him. I mean, if he wants to say that I don't like him very much, he's right. And in fact, I didn't think that was something that needed to be pointed out. I thought it was pretty self-evident from when I was writing. Maybe I need to be more direct in my criticism. I don't think so. I think I'm getting my point across. I think the problem is it's hurt him because I'm right. And he doesn't like that so much. And so what politicians like to do is they like to sort of deflect, and it instead of talking about the criticism or responding to the criticism, instead it's the critic is invalid in some way because they're fake news or in my case, I have mental health disorders. By the way, Rick Becker is a physician. I think he just announced that he's retired from his plastic surgeon from his surgical practice. But I think maybe I ought to know better than to use artificial intelligence to apparently diagnose somebody with mental health disorders, which, by the way, are real disorders. I mean, people who have obsessive compulsive disorder, there are real people who struggle with that sort of thing. Maybe we don't need to use it as a political jibe. And the thing is, I don't think he's joking. Like, I don't think he's joking when he's saying that. I think he really thought that this AI analysis was pertinent. Like, I expected when I was going in to watch it, I was expecting it to be like a bit. I was expecting it to be like a jokey thing, like a skit or something, and they're poking fun at me or whatever. In which case, whatever. But it wasn't. Like, he was serious. He really thought that this analysis was meaningful. And I would argue that it's not. 261 articles since 2013 works out, and I think he even said this, works out to like one every 18 days. I would argue that another way of saying that is less than 2 a month. For over 13 years, for a guy who has been involved in as you said, in the legislature, multiple runs on the statewide ballot, involved in, a very consequential ballot measure campaign. I don't think that's actually that much. I think that's actually a pretty regular amount of content to write about somebody over the course of 13 years.
And we don't know if it was that many columns just about him, or if he was just mentioning.
I'm willing to stipulate that every single one was about him, because even if it was, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I suspect you're right. I suspect some of them probably just mention Rick Becker.
He was running against John Oban. Yeah, I mean,
or just mention he's a co-sponsor of a bill or something like that. And it's not even really about him. He just got a name mentioned because it was pertinent to the article. So I don't know. I mean, I think that segment probably says a lot more about Rick Becker than it does about me.
Now, the next thing that's sort of interesting here is, so he was guest hosting a show on Beck, which is a rural telephone co-op that gets a bunch of money from the federal government to run a bunch of really conservative shows about how the federal government sucks. So Gary Ameneth hosts a show on there, and you like that? Because it absolutely drives me crazy that we hate the federal government.
In fact, I think I wrote about it because Lori Hins is like big involved over there, and I mean, obviously, like, just rants about the federal government, but then was like the headline speaker when a Biden administration official was in announcing a whole bunch of like rural money. And the thing is like, I don't begrudge her. Like, I think that was probably a good thing. I think it's a little hilarious that she's super excited about it when it's going maybe indirectly into her pocket, but
right.
Whatever.
So Gary Ameneth hosts a show, Rick Becker guest hosts. He has a bit on you respond, and then Gary Ameneth takes to the Fargo Forum, which I believe is your employer, to attack you.
Wait, you believe that they're my employer? We'll have to fact check that later.
Yeah, we'll Google that later.
I'll verify it later.
The best part of that column, which was not very good, was when he said hundreds of thousands of people watch his show every week. Rob, you pointed out the math of that to me. That means it's like 1 of every 5 North Dakotans watches his show. I would know one of them.
Well, if it's hundreds of thousands, it's actually more than that, because North Dakota has about 800,000 people. Like, even if we're counting the babies, who I guarantee you are not watching political television, but even if we're counting the babies, and he's saying hundreds of thousands, so that's at least 200,000. You're talking about a quarter of the entire state, of the entire population, and obviously a much larger percentage if we're just talking about people who are in the age demographic. That is a ridiculous claim to make, and it's hilarious
for the fact that you might be ignoring the fact that Gary Ameneth has an international audience, right? I'm sure it's an international, it's a national scene that Gary Ameneth is streaming.
He's big in Turkey. Maybe.
Big in Turkey.
I don't know.
And it also makes sense that Becker and Ameneth are sort of working in cahoots. I mean, they're the 2 Republicans in North Dakota who haven't quite figured out how to consistently win elections in the state. And so it does sort of make sense that they would attack you. But don't you think also, Rob, like, I read this stuff in all seriousness, and they're attacking you because they see you as a messenger whose message is getting through, right? I mean, I think that's exactly what's happening here. And then Gary Ameneth took some real credit for your career as well, which was another interesting part of his column.
He at one point, I mean, because back early on, I mean, yeah, he was one of the like party leaders early on who said, yeah, we should let bloggers in the room. I was one of them. Oh, and that was, I mean, that was back when this whole new media thing was like a new thing. And so that was a decision. Sure. I mean, if he wants credit, I think that I'm responsible for my career. I think it was all the things that I wrote that, sometimes make people mad or whatever. But I mean, I get in the room because, take it or not, I'm pretty good at this. And if people, I don't really like, people were I poked at him for his audience size, and people are like, oh, Plain Talk only gets, however many views on YouTube. I would also point out, I'm not claiming that we have hundreds of thousands of viewers for this show. I think we do pretty good. I think overall we're in the maybe couple thousand, 3,000 or so per episode.
And they're the best 3,000.
Yeah, they're great. We love our audience. I realize we're not blowing anybody's hair back, right, on with the show. I get that, but we're really happy with it. I enjoy all the feedback we get from our listeners. I enjoy that, I hear people out in the wild talking about things. I like it when people come up to me at, in public or at events at the Dem convention. I mean, people coming up, most of the people coming up were wanting to talk to me about the podcast first. People seem to enjoy it. So, and I think I'm not out there making any wild claims about it. I know what our audience is. I'm happy with it.
My favorite story about the podcast was being at some, I think it was a dance thing, and a guy in front of me turned around and said, I thought I recognized that voice. And he then complimented Plain Talk. It's like, that's good stuff. That's fun.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that if you're out there having to say, and I have been poking at Gary, and let me express some empathy. I know how hard it is to build an audience. Back when I was just a blogger, I spent the first few years, I kind of like that they're still calling me, like when people want to belittle me, they call me, oh, that blogger. Well, sure. I mean, I was for a while. I also am a columnist and reporter for the largest media organization.
Sort of like when people used to call Obama an organizer.
Right. Like a bit more than that. But whatever. I mean, if you want to take pot shots at me, I mean, there are a lot of people who have taken, pot shots or wanted to make me the issue. And usually it doesn't work out well for them, particularly when they're politicians, Chad. I mean, you think about how many people, like they get obsessed with responding to me all the time. And the thing about that is, Chad, I've never lost an election because I can't lose an election because I'm never on the goddamn ballot.
Right.
And so if you're obsessed with me, you're going to lose because you can't beat me. I'm not even playing the game.
What is the old saying about don't pick a fight with somebody who buys ink by the barrel?
I would update it to somebody who buys like bandwidth by the gigabyte or something.
Yeah,
like
something
that, right?
like that. But I think that's one. I also think it's funny. I mean, Gary Emineff has been a guest on the show. I mean, we had him on the show. If you're such a terrible person, I assume he likes me. But if you're such a terrible person,
he probably does.
Yeah. Why would he come on the show? If there's such a small audience, why would he come on the show?
I think it's just, they're upset. I mean, the Trump era has divided a lot of people. I'm obviously not a fan of that faction of the party. I don't have anything against Gary personally. Like I said, I poke fun at him, but he pokes at me too. Whatever, grow up a little bit. It's kind of funny and kind of childish. The other thing, somehow, like in his letter, I'm somehow simultaneously like losing my audience, like I'm descending into irrelevance, but also like this super powerful bully. I think those things probably don't really make sense together. And then also the fact that he wrote it in the forum. I was really happy that he wrote it there as opposed to talking about it on his show so people could see it. I think
you just love it. You just love it, don't you?
I should stop. It's a little bit. And I was, by the way, I got off track. I was trying to express some empathy. I know what it's like to build an audience. Like, it's really hard. I spent the first several years of my career, talking into the void. Early on this podcast, there weren't a lot of people tuning in at first. It takes
and then what'd you do? You brought in Chad Oban, and then we got the Oban bump. You know what Emineff needs? Emineff needs to bring me on as a guest host to whatever that show is.
He's probably gonna try to steal you away from me now.
Yeah. So I can get some of that sweet federal money over there at Beck Communications.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's kind of a silly thing. And maybe they just need to grow up. And listen, I mean, if he's upset about me responding, maybe don't do a segment where you call me mentally ill for writing as a North Dakota political columnist, writing about a North Dakota politician.
Look at me. Why are you so obsessed with me?
Yeah.
But now Gary Emnith was not the only person who wrote in the Fargo Forum about Rob Port this week.
Yeah. By the way, both those letters of the editor, pretty good on traffic. It turns out I'm not just good at bringing in readers when I'm writing, but the people who write in about me also bring in a lot of readers.
So
Kevin
your
Kramer,
bosses are super excited. They're like, keep writing about Rob Port. He's bringing in lots of clicks.
Yeah. Well, so Senator Kramer was upset because I suggested that former Department of Home, I don't even know what her current title is. It's something about
Special Envoy to the Western
Shield,
Strategic Wall Shield, or something.
Sounds like something out of a Marvel movie a little bit.
Absolutely does.
It sounds like her and Nick Fury are like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now or something. Like, I don't know. Anyway, I had the temerity to suggest that she might have been removed as the head of the Department of Homeland Security because she was being scapegoated for the terrible political impact of the way the Trump administration has gone about enforcing immigration policy. And I suggested that trying to isolate it, and like some of the stuff where we see Republicans attacking Noem now for some of the stuff with, the contracts and the spending and her behavior with Corey Lewandowski, some of those things, focusing on that. My argument was distracts from the fact that the real problem, right? Because if using the federal government to sort of line your own pockets and enhance your sex life is something that the Trump administration doesn't like, then they're going to have to fire a lot more people than Kristi Noem. I think the problem was, and what the Trump administration can admit, is the way they were going about enforcing immigration policy proved to be a disaster. Sending that expeditionary force, whatever the hell you want to call them, into Minneapolis to just aggressively attack, that blew up in their faces. That was it really, wherever you're at on the immigration issue, doing it that way was a poor choice. And so now Kristi Noem's gone under the bus for it. And Kevin Kramer didn't agree with me on that. He thought that I just, out of my hatred for Donald Trump, I once again can't see clearly. Kristi Noem did a great job, and now she's on to bigger and better things as one of the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever the hell she is now.
So I think it's interesting too. He tried to pivot that the only person who lost in the Minneapolis thing was Tim Walz. I think Tim Walz can take the political hit around the fraud and abuse, and Kristi Noem can also have not done a good, you can have both of those things. It's not an either or sort of thing. I think it's a really strange, Kristi Noem is a political liability. That's why she got fired, right? Why would I don't understand the political calculus around Kramer jumping to defend her in this situation. She's a lame duck. She's gone. She's going to be out of this Western Shield.
Obviously, I've been very, very outspoken, sharply critical of Donald Trump. And of all the things that Senator Kramer could criticize me on, there's probably a lot of things where he would probably have the audience nodding along. North Dakota is still a very pro-Trump place. He probably could have had a lot of people nodding along, being like, oh yeah, what's wrong about that? But he chose Kristi Noem, which I think a lot of people, even in Trump world, there's a reason she's not there anymore. They couldn't defend her anymore. She's terrible.
Yeah.
And so to go to the mattresses for her, I don't know. I can't really explain it. That didn't make a lot of sense to me.
And you just watched her performance on the Hill. With Tillis and Kennedy and all those Republicans going for the things that you talked about in terms of the money and that kind of thing. He had to fire her. And so I don't understand, I don't understand Kramer picking this one.
No.
Of all the different things, unless he wanted, there also feels like there's a let's bring up the Walz fraud stuff as much as possible right now as sort of a contrast.
Well,
that was the thought behind it.
I would argue, like he said, the only person hurt, it ended Tim Walz's political career. Well, the fraud ended Tim Walz's political career, and as well it should have. I've said he should resign for it. I'm not defending Tim Walz.
Yeah, the ICE stuff probably brought him back to life for a minute.
I think the ICE stuff helped him. I think the ICE stuff distracted. I think the Republicans had a very effective message on the fraud because they were right. There was a ton of fraud. A lot of people got away with it. Democrats, the Walz administration did a poor job of overseeing that. And I think, I mean, that criticism is apt. But the problem is you then went and distracted from it by making Walz look kind of heroic, resisting, what was really a brutal federal crackdown on immigration that hurt people, killed people, two of them.
And I think the fraud thing would have also killed Penny Flanagan, his lieutenant governor's race for U.S. Senate, if it hadn't been for the ICE thing. And now she's back up in the polls against Angie Craig for that Senate primary, because there's less focus on the fraud and more focus on the ICE piece. So again, I think it was just a weird pitch for Kramer to swing at here when there seemed to be a lot of better things. But maybe it was just one of those things where that was the straw that broke the camel's back, that it was just one too many TDS columns from Rob Port that got him to move on. But like, I would not defend Kristi Noem.
I think he was peaked at me. I think that's where that probably came from. And I'll tell you, Chad, it doesn't make me feel great. I like Kevin Kramer. I've liked Kevin Kramer for a long time. I've known Kevin Kramer for a long time. If Kevin Kramer is on the ballot again this cycle, I'd almost certainly vote for him. So I just, but obviously, once again, Trump is dividing us on, among Republicans. And, I guess this is another manifestation of it. But again, of all the things I've written about Donald Trump that or the Trump administration or MAGA or whatever, that he could have been critical of, it's weird to pick Noem, because Noem just seems like a lost cause. Should we talk about Iran?
Does Iran scare the hell out of you?
A little bit.
Yeah. Scares me.
First of all, I mean, there's a hell of a lot of very important commerce that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, that Iran can effectively block. I think what it's going to take from the United States and Israel, in order to stop Iran's ability to inhibit commerce through the Strait of Hormuz, is going to take a long time. I think that Donald Trump very much wants to declare this over now. And the thing about it is, when you start a war, you don't necessarily get to decide when it's over. That's where we're at. And again, I think this, and one thing that I was sharply critical of Senator Kramer and our whole delegation on is, allowing, this is a war. This war has enormous economic ramifications for America and the world. And Trump started it on his own. He started it on his own. Didn't come to Congress. He consulted Congress after the missiles were already in the air. After they'd already, we'd already fired the bullets. I think that's wrong. I mean, if we think about that, like, if you're defending that as an executive power, that means whoever we elect to the White House could start a conflict that could potentially cost thousands of American military members their life. It could cost us billions upon billions upon billions of dollars in spending on weapons and everything else. Drive up prices. I even saying that oil prices going up is not a bad thing for North Dakota.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it. But I don't want oil prices. I don't want to invigorate. I don't want to stimulate North Dakota's energy economy that way. So I think it's really hard. And I think it's really hard to defend that the president gets to make that decision unilaterally. And I think if it's President Biden making that decision, I think a lot of these Republicans would be singing a different tune.
And Democrats would be singing a different tune, if we're being honest, right? I mean,
I think that's fair.
That's the problem, I think, in one of my biggest frustrations with the Republicans in Congress right now is they have not defended the institutions. They've not defended the separation. I think a lot of states have not defended states' rights in a way that they should because of partisanship. But the oil prices and gas prices at the pump. So the politics around gas prices at the pump always, it's shocking to me that people, do you remember, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the little stickers all over the place with "I did that" with Biden pointing to it? Like, if U.S. presidents put all their political chips in keeping gas prices low, it's not really a good strategy because the prices are going to go back up again and people are going to be mad. But that weird thing that you just talked about, people are going to be pissed that their gas prices are going up. But man, oil being up around $100, that sure is good for our state. Sure is good for our tax. I mean, when does what's his name from Continental, Harold Ham, start drilling again?
Stand those drills back up.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting. And how long does this war last? And when does it start affecting? When does the price normalize? And how high do these gas prices go during an affordability crisis leading up to an election in November? Like, there's just a lot of variables here that will have a big effect on a lot of things that we talk about on the show.
Hi, I'm Megan Invick with Americans for Prosperity, North Dakota. This year, we unveiled our Road to Opportunity policy agenda for 2027, a clear roadmap for keeping government limited and opportunity wide open in North Dakota. While the legislature won't meet until 2027, we're using 2026 to listen, organize, and build momentum. Learn more about the Road to Opportunity and how you can be a part of it at afpnd.org.
This episode is presented by the Blue Rider.
Check out the Blue Rider in downtown Minot for a laid-back vibe and outdoor patio and 16 beers on tap.
They've got live music, trivia nights, and one of the deepest record collections around.
Plus fair prices, friendly faces, late-night favorites like grilled cheese and pizza.
The Blue Rider, serving Minot since 1994.
Good drinks, good music, good people.
Hey, Plain Talk listeners, have something to say? Call or text Plain Talk with your questions, comments, or headlines you want us to cover.
Just dial 701-587-3141. Leave us your message or shoot us a text with your name and location, and you could be featured on an upcoming show.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I am in Jamestown.
Hey, Rob and Chad. My name is Tony. I live in Grand Forks.
That's 701-587-3141.
Call us, text us, vent, praise.
We want you in the conversation. Thanks for being part of the show.
Now let's get back to today's episode.
I should point out we are going to have OMB director Joe Morissette on a show. I don't think it's next week. I think it's the week after. He's going to come on, kind of an update on North Dakota's revenue picture. And I am working on somebody from the department. I think Nathan Anderson is from the Department of Mineral Resources is going to come on to talk about, because I think that's very important. Like, what does all this mean for North Dakota? And the funny thing is, so much has happened even before I sent those invitations. Even since I sent those invitations. So there's just a lot going on. We're a commodity state. You know, the higher prices may not be bad for us, but you know, I think again, and I don't like that gas prices become such an important topic. Like I get it. I pay the price at the pump, same as everybody else. I don't like it when it goes up any more than anybody else does. That being said, I think it gets as much attention as it does because it's easy to talk about.
It's right in your face. Just drive down the street.
You drive up and down the road, the prices are posted right there. So even more so than like a price of a loaf of bread or eggs or something like that, it's a very, very visible economic indicator. And so I think sometimes we impute more importance to it than we should. And everybody does it. Democrats do it, Republicans do it. That being said, I mean, there's a very real chance that this, decimates Republicans in the midterms. I mean, you have a problem where, Donald Trump campaigned on not entangling us in foreign wars.
The peace president, right? Didn't he campaign as the peace president? Doesn't feel like that. Yeah, but then
he also sent that letter to the president of Norway saying that now that he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, he's less inclined to be peaceful. So maybe that's what's happening. He didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, so now he's going to start a war.
Whatever. He took it from the woman who did get it, so he should be happy.
But that's not good. Yeah, but his name's not on it. You know, he likes his names to be on things.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and I also think that like the Hegseth, like the uber masculine sort of approach to this, also I think is going to rub people the wrong way. I mean, there's soldiers dying. There's Americans dying. We can't just go in like. I keep thinking about the SNL skit. I don't know if you've seen the clips of Colin.
I was going to bring it up, like Colin Jost. That might be the best. I don't know how many people still watch SNL. Probably more than watch Gary Eminer's show. But they have Colin Jost.
Just a lot more.
Colin Jost impersonation of Pete Hegseth. is probably one of the most spot on, perfect satires I have seen in a long time.
Just
It is
overly testosterone, sort of frat boy. It's so good.
one of my favorite columnists said something about Hegseth, and I'm going to scroll now and see if I can find the excerpt that I quoted. Oh, here it is. This is Nick Catoggio from the Dispatch. He wrote this. He said, "The Secretary of Defense is a poser, knows he's a poser, and he knows that the people he commands know he's a poser. He tries to compensate with cringy feats of strength, corny patriotic apparel, and endless babbling about how lethal our military is, as if enough raw bravado might make up for his lack of qualifications. He means to project toughness in all things, but what he actually projects is fragility, a callow insecurity about his fitness for the job, so palpable and oppressive that it seems to surround him like a fog. I find it excruciating to watch him, more so than even the president. He's LARPing in one of the most influential government positions on earth." I thought that was absolutely spot on.
I think that's spot on.
Manifestly unfit for this.
And Rob, how long do you think the American people are going to put up with no explanation of sort of how this war is going to end or what our goals are for this war? Because, you know, we've been through this. We know how this goes. And if there's not an explanation, the first George Bush, if you recall how popular he was when he went to war, and then he lost 18 months later to Bill Clinton, had a 90% approval rating.
And I would argue that the first Gulf War was planned out and executed far more efficiently than obviously Iraq and Afghanistan under George W. Bush, and then certainly than this.
Right. But I don't think the American people, regardless of partisanship, have an appetite for an endless war where they don't understand what the goals are. Particularly, I think we're up to 6 American soldiers who have died. There's real consequences. And then, like, the U.S. maybe accidentally bombed a school in Iran, and Trump said, "Oh, it was probably they just blew it up themselves, but it was one of our missiles." I mean, like, there's just so much.
That New York Times reporter asking that question, like, you were suggesting that somehow the Iranian government got a hold of an American Tomahawk missile and blew up their own school, and then asked them, like, "You're the only person saying that. Like, your other members of your administration aren't saying that."
And Trump says, we're looking into it.
I suspect that school probably was blown up by an American missile. I think that's almost certainly what happened. And if it did happen, obviously that's something that we have to wear. I don't think I would be shocked to my core if that was done on purpose. I would chalk it up to it's war. That doesn't make it okay. That doesn't make it hurt. Doesn't make my heart break any less. But things like that happen in war. And so, I'm much more concerned about upstream. Is this war worth it? Because if the war's worth it, then some things like that happening, you have to accept as a price of war. But if the objective's worth it, and it could be that the objective is worth it. It could be that my entire adult life, we have been hearing about the Iranians moving towards nuclear capabilities. We've been hearing about their state sponsorship of terrorism. We've been hearing about them working towards, intercontinental missile capabilities. Those are real things.
Yeah,
those are real things to be concerned about. And if we finally reached ahead to where this war is justified by those things, where a breakthrough on one of those things was imminent, that was going to threaten America or Europe or Israel or anybody else, then maybe we did have to act. But that's not the case for this war that I'm hearing from the administration. And if there is a case like that to be made,
make it
to Congress and have them sign off on it, which our Constitution requires.
Rob, I think the other thing at play here is I thought we were told by this administration that 8 months ago we took care of their nuclear capabilities, right? I don't trust what we're going to hear from this administration in terms of what our goals are. So your point is, if the ends justify the means, maybe we have to do this.
That's not exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I understand, but there is a price of war. We know that there's a price of war, and people die and get hurt, but sometimes war is necessary to protect ourselves. I don't see any scenario where no matter what this administration says, that the American public is going to believe them, that what they're trying to accomplish is worth this, because this is not a trustworthy administration.
I worry about the downstream ramifications in terms of like asymmetrical war, specifically terrorism. I mean, the lesson of 9/11 is that we, the United States, in a bid to, help, basically stick it to the Soviets, we armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Right. Famously, we've made movies about it. We gave them rocket propelled grenades and other sorts of funding and stuff like that. And they did. They gave the Soviets hell. And we helped them do that. And then when it was over, we abandoned them. We left them and we pulled out and we left. And the roots of that, because Osama bin Laden was one of the Mujahideen. And they turned on us because of that. And that is where the roots of Al Qaeda was. That's where the roots of 9/11 was. And then we saw terrorist attacks. So you have to wonder, like, as we're attacking Afghanistan, you blow up. I mean, one of the costs of blowing up a school full of children is, who did that just radicalize? Right. And again, going to war, sometimes we have to fight. I wish it wasn't true. I wish that wasn't something that was true. I'm not a warmonger. I don't want to go to war, but we have to sometimes. That's just the way the world is. But that being said, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And this is why the case for war is so important. And this is why those legal checks and balances about when we go to war are so important, because these decisions have massive ramifications. I mean, 5 years from now, if a terrorist blows up a building in the United States, and my God, I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, and they were radicalized by what we did in Iran, that is a price we have to pay. That is a price we may pay. And that is a terrible, terrible thing to consider.
And Congress has a role, and they need to do their jobs to be part of this. I think that's the one thing that.
And there are some members of Congress that are trying.
Right.
A lot of Democrats, even some Republicans, and they're trying. And this is, I've been critical of our congressional delegation here in North Dakota for this. They should be standing up for the institution. Explain to me why it's okay for Congress to just give a pass. They say, oh, it's not really a war. How is this not really a war?
Yeah.
If this isn't a war, what is? What is a war? It's what they call it now, a kinetic action.
Well, in watching members of Congress and watching members of this administration trip all over themselves, saying it's a war, and then saying, well, it's not really a war, but then referring to it as war. I mean, Hegseth is the worst at that. So I worry about the terrorism aspect of it. I don't think Iran's going to come over here and send in ground troops. But man, they could
not ground troops, but maybe a terror cell.
Exactly right.
I mean, everybody knows that's true. Iran is one of the biggest state sponsors of global terrorism there is.
Right.
Full stop.
Yep.
So yeah, that may be one of the ways they retaliate. In fact, I would expect it. Hopefully we can stop.
Yep. No, I agree 100%, but it's scary. People are feeling this. There's going to be political ramifications that are huge over this year because of this decision.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, because we've been talking about the way the trade policies and everything have been. Obviously, I mean, agriculture is the big thing for us. The higher fuel prices may be great for North Dakota's energy industry. It's not going to be great for our ag industry. Where all of a sudden the fuel, and it's not just, obviously it's the direct cost of fuel for tractors and trucks and everything else, but it's also the cost of shipping anything. I mean, you talk about like the last mile, like if you're ordering a part from your tractor and all of a sudden it costs, $15-20 more because of fuel. I mean, that's going to on top of a country that we're already paying for. We're going to war. It's going to cost us a ton of money. We're closing in on $40 trillion in debt. Where we were promised at the very least deficit reduction. We have yet to see that from the Trump administration. If that was the sort of things that Americans were really voting for, has Trump delivered? He promised deficit reduction. The deficit's as bad as it's ever been. He promised no entanglement in foreign wars. Here we are in war at war with Iran. He promised a lot of things, and he's not delivering. He's not even delivering on the things that, setting aside the tweets and his temperament and the way he behaves and everything else, he is not delivering on his campaign promises. And so, I mean, what do you think? I mean, how does that play out in the midterms, Chad?
So I think it just plays into the affordability thing, which again, it hurts farmers, but then it also hurts consumers as well, because we know that consumers are the ones that are going to have to pick up that price for additional fuel costs and all those different things. It's going to be more expensive for families to go on vacations, either if they're driving or if they're flying. Jet fuel is way more expensive. The airlines are already saying that tickets for airplanes is going to go shooting up moving forward. So I think it's going to have some real ramifications, and the party in power loses when people are not happy. And I think by and large, people are not happy, and it's only going to get worse as things get more expensive. I agree. The gas station thing, the gas price drives me crazy when both parties do it, but it is that billboard. It's the billboard of stuff costing more expensive. Maybe if every grocery store had the price of eggs, outside on a big billboard, maybe people would pay attention to that. But I think this affordability piece, and if Democrats can stay focused on that, and maybe have some plans on how to bring back or put money in the pockets, like, I don't know, past school meals or something like that, to put money in the pockets of people. I think that, I think this bodes well politically for Democrats, and that Republicans, I mean, we're seeing Republicans drop like flies, like not seeking reelection. Montana, we just had a member of Congress and a U.S. Senator decide not to seek reelection. Those things aren't happening just because people no longer want to be a U.S. Senator.
Well, let's talk about some of the other chaos. We're still dealing with the chaos of the Doge and the government shutdown and everything from last year. I don't know if you saw the article by our Matt Henson at WDAY. Grand Forks organization, Civic, canceled their annual fundraiser this year. I'm going to read now. This is from Matt Henson's article. For the past 20 years, the Community Violence Intervention Center has held a breakfast in the spring. Last year, more than 800 people attended. However, Civic now faces a $500,000 deficit, mainly due to delayed federal funding. So this is a fundraising breakfast. They're not going to hold it anymore. I'm assuming because they probably can't afford to. Instead, they're going to, try to make their case directly to donors and get some money that way. But they're $500 million short. Last year, Civic served 4,000 people in our state. So that's 4,000 people who were the victims of violence or impacted by violence. And this group is struggling to stay afloat. Why? Because of chaos in the federal government that is continuing to flow downhill. Somebody made a point too the other day about, oh my gosh, what was it? Oh, Zach Racknerud, when we had him on the show, was talking about Trinity Hospital in Minot not doing hospice care anymore. And now all of a sudden, like North Dakotans who are, dealing with a loved one that is, gravely ill, where do they go? We these are real problems that are affected. And I think as Americans, we take these programs, we take these services for granted that they're there, right? We've lived through such good times. We funded these things and they're available. And so if you're going through that, if your mom's dying or your spouse is dying and you need hospice care, there's a program near you that's available. If you're unfortunate enough to be living with violence in your life, domestic violence or what have you, there's been a program that's available to help you get, to help you, to support you, to protect you, to help you get justice. These are increasingly not going to exist anymore. And how much longer are Americans? I think we're kind of shrugging our shoulders about some of it, saying, oh yeah, whatever, politics is politics. But real people are being impacted by this. And eventually there's going to be a political price to pay.
It's inhumane, the programs that are being affected by these political games. And for what? Just because the people we elect to Washington can't get their crap together?
And by the way, I want to make it clear, I am completely open to having a debate about any spending program. Is it effective? Is it working? Should we be spending money here instead of over there? And I'm not dogging Civic. I think they do great work. But if you want to have a debate about, is the way we're funding something like Civic the right way? Could we fund it? Do they need that much money? Do they need more money? Do they need less money? Those are all fair debates to have.
But you don't think just randomly freezing the money is the right way to go about things? I
think that if they're shutting down, they're being hurt because the politicians can't get their act together, that is unacceptable.
It's every conversation that we seem to be having right now. Washington can't get their crap together, so health insurance is shooting up. Washington can't get their crap together, so federal funds for schools and other human services, the money is
Washington can't
frozen.
get their crap together, so the state of North Dakota has to start a loan program to help keep farmers afloat. The people in Washington can't get their act together, so the state of North Dakota has to come up with a Bank of North Dakota program to help
for
federal employees make ends meet while the government shut down. I mean, it's obliging the state of North Dakota to have to step in, and I don't want to say, well, I mean, we're spending some money. Those are loan programs, but we're spending some money. There's a cost to that stuff.
Yeah,
and by the way, kudos to Governor Armstrong and other North Dakota leaders who are doing their best to step into that gap. But at some point, our expectation has to be Congress has to govern.
So, but we do know that the politics of often people say, I hate Congress, but I love my member of Congress. I hate Congress and they're incompetent, but my member of Congress is good. At some point, North Dakotans, the only way you can really fix the chaos in Washington is by demanding it or sending new people to Washington and holding them accountable, right? I mean, that's the only thing. Do I think John Hoeven's a good senator? I do. Do I think that this is the world I don't think this is the world where he wants to be a U.S. senator. I think he's something different. But at some point, I mean, we have to be having conversations. These are human beings that we're electing who are causing chaos and hurt to a lot of people. And we need to, there's only one way to fix that. To elect new bodies.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, at some point the world works on consequence, right? You behave yourself in office a certain way. And if it's the wrong way in the eyes of voters, but again, and I guess I'm going to go on one of my blame the voters rant, but the voters have to want something different. A lot of this is happening because we voted for this. I'd say certain people won the elections, and I'll say that I don't think Julie Fedorchak's part of the problem in Washington. I don't think she's part of the problem. I think the political environment around her is part of the problem. And maybe she does need to answer some pointed questions about who are you supporting that is contributing to this environment, and why aren't you speaking out about it more? Those are fair questions for her.
Yeah, I think the fairest questions about why aren't you standing up for this? I mean, the institutions against tariffs, against some of these things that are hurting people. And she's only been in office for a year and a half, right? I mean, it's not like but she's our only voice. And so I would like to see a little bit more independence from our member of Congress. That stands up for North Dakota a little bit more. And again, what we're seeing around the country, though, is if you do stand up for Trump or stand up to Trump, you get smacked. You get smacked at the electoral. So, it's balancing those things. And I get it. But at some point, the constituents and the people up in Grand Forks who are hurting by these civic things and tariffs and all that have to come first.
I would like to hear something like, Mr. President, I support what you're doing in Iran. I think it's the right mission. I think it's unfortunate that we have to do it, but I think we need to do it. That being said, you need to come to Congress and you need to get this authorized. You need to make the case to Congress and the American people for what you're doing. And if you don't, then I'm sorry, you can't wage this war.
Right. It seems reasonable.
I don't think that's an unreasonable message. But we live in unreasonable times.
We do.
The expectation, I mean, let's face it, the expectations for most North Dakota voters is that Julie Fedorchak do exactly what Donald Trump wants her to. That is the environment that she's operating in. And whose fault is that?
Until North Dakota voters decide that they want something different and demand something different. Because again, maybe it's not electing somebody new, but it's just sending a message, Congresswoman, we need you to stand up to the president a little bit more. For us. Maybe that's the way it needs to be done.
Well, I'll give Julie Fedorchak some credit. Standing up to her state party is a good start. I think that's the right move. And I know we talked about that on a previous show, but she deserves a lot of credit for that. I think she was sort of she's the top of the ticket candidate this cycle. And I think her deciding not to go, starts the snowball rolling down the hill for others to join her.
They haven't exactly treated her with the respect that she probably deserves in the past. So I think this is the smart move. And, I
think it was a good move.
Yep.
All right. We're going to put a pin in it there. Thank you so much.
Hey, we have a listener text.
Oh, we have. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot. Here we go. All right. All right, kind of a long text. This
Who's
is a
running
good
this
one though.
show? Who is running this show?
Well, you're helping me run the show.
Oh, that's
This
right.
is a
Okay,
team
I
effort.
thought I just talked. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
I'm ready.
Let's see. So, by the way, this text dunks on you a little bit.
Good.
It says Chad repeated the claim that Donald Trump told people to drink bleach, despite all his lies, despite all the crackpots he's emboldened, and despite all the untrue things Donald Trump believes. We have no recording of Donald Trump telling anyone to drink bleach. Chad is likely referring to when, during the COVID pandemic, Donald Trump wondered aloud whether research should be done on injecting disinfectants into people's lungs to clean out COVID. That is still a bad idea, but it isn't the same thing. And bad actors can and do use statements like Chad's to claim that all bad things said about Trump are false. There's more to be said on that, but for the sake of something resembling brevity, while it isn't fair that Trump lies without consequence while people are lying about Trump just fuels Trump's support. We do need to focus on criticizing Trump accurately and about the most serious things if we are to have a chance getting through to Trump supporters. And speaking of untrue things that people believe, I choose to believe Rob made up someone who agrees with him on the cell phone ban. And that's responding to a previous listener text we got of somebody agreeing with me that the cell phone ban's a little silly.
Yeah. So, I apologize for being a little, I think that the texter makes a good point, playing a little fast and loose, while drinking bleach and shooting disinfectant into your veins. I get what the point is, but either one is batshit crazy.
It's important to be precise. I think the listener makes a really good point. It's important to be precise because we see some stuff like that. The stuff about Sarah Palin saying she could see Russia from her house was not true. She never actually said that. But the left kind of glommed onto it, and the
Tina
right,
Tina Fey
glommed onto it, and I get it. We kind of shorten things up, or especially when we're trying to make jokes or satirize something. We were just talking about Colin Jost's portrayal of Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth does not explicitly behave in the way that Colin Jost does. Colin Jost is obviously doing a caricature for humor, and there's some validity in that, right? But we should be precise in the things we said. So point well made. I will also say that was a real text from somebody agreeing with me on the cell phone ban.
I think both of the things the texter wrote in, me being a little bit fast and loose with drinking bleach, and you making up this texter about the cell phone ban, I think he's accurate on both accounts.
Yeah. I didn't. That message actually came in not through our text line, but it was like a direct message on LinkedIn. So I do know the person. They really are a school board member. And that was a real text. And believe it or not, sometimes people do agree with me on things. It happens.
And I think the name was Robert Bort, who sent in that message. I don't know. Maybe it's connected to somebody, but
I heard he might be a Yankees fan too. I don't know.
Rob, here's the thing though. Let's not drink bleach. Let's not shoot disinfectant into our veins, and we're all better off for it.
Let's not take any health advice at all from someone who's a politician or an influencer. As we like to say all the time, just talk to your doctor. Super easy. Okay, we are going to put a pin in it there.
Thanks for the texter. Do the fact checking. I like this. Text us. It's fun.
We are getting so much feedback now. I absolutely love it. 701-587-3141. Send your text there. Save it into your phone. So while you're listening, if you want to fire off something to us, you can. You can also call it and leave voicemails when we'll play the audio on. And people I think are sometimes a little shy about that. But if you want to participate in that way, feel free. Plain Talk ND is our handle on all social media. So if you want to find us on Twitter, if you want to find us on TikTok, you want to find us on Facebook, YouTube, that's our handle. PlainTalkND.com will take you straight to our YouTube page. And if you subscribe there, you can get you'll get notified the latest episodes. We try to break down each episode. So if you're only really interested in the interview, we have a video for that. If you're really only interested in Chad and I talking to each other, we have a video for that. We have clips, kind of highlights from each episode. We put them all there. We create a playlist for each episode. So it'll have all the clips from that episode, all the different videos. So it's a great way. I really like what YouTube allows us to do in terms of sort of chopping up, the content for the show and making it more digestible for everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again.
That's it for today on Plain Talk, the voice of North Dakota politics. Plain Talk is a production of Forum Communications Company. Got a question, comment, or suggestion? Leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 701-587-3141. That's 701-587-3141. If you haven't subscribed to Plain Talk yet, you can find us on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform like Spotify or Apple Podcasts. For those of you who are already hooked, give us a rating or review. And don't forget to share or tell a friend. Special thanks to my co-host Chad Oban, and from myself and everyone at Plain Talk, thanks for listening.
Who's running this show? Who is running this show?
Well, you're helping me run the show.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
The North Dakota oil and natural gas industry works here, and works here, and here, and even works here by creating 60,000 jobs statewide and generating billions of tax dollars annually to support our infrastructure, flood protection projects, and our schools. North Dakota Oil and Natural Gas, advancing the possibilities.
Learn more at ndpetroleumfoundation.org.